I've been wanting to learn how to sharpen my fine woodworking saws for a long time. Those of you guys who followed my channel know that I've sharpened crosscut saws, but it's very different, but it's very similar in a lot of ways. Now, I guess before we get started, I'm going to tell you that as we go through these video series, this is the first time I've ever done this. I've never filed these small fine-tooth saws before, and I've just finally put together everything that I think that I need to do it, and I'm hoping that we could kind of learn together on this. I've read everything there is to read about it, and now the only thing left to do is to put it into practice. So there's not a lot that you need if you want to file a different type of saws, and I guess the two saws that we're going to cover are going to be kind of a back saw like this one here. This is, you've seen this one before here. This is the Henry Diston 14, I think this is a 14 tooth per inch back saw in excellent condition, but it needs sharpening, and I haven't been able to use it. Also, we've got the bigger, more of your general purpose carpenter saws here. We can sharpen these as well. The process, from what I understand, is basically the same thing. It all comes down to the size of the file and how much you set the tool. You don't need anything really special to do it apart from some pretty special files, and those files are going to be these three-sided files. As I was reading, I realized that these are actually not three-sided files, but they're six-sided files. They have each quarter has a filed edge on it as well. And if that wasn't the case, then it makes sense as you file into the gullet, it would stop, it would bump into the bottom and run out, wouldn't continue to cut. So I hadn't thought about that. But I have here a double slim taper. These were sent to me by one of my subscribers from Germany, and they're of the Fjord, I think. Really nice, a lot better than the previous ones that we got. And also one that's a little bit bigger here, all different sizes. So what I read and what I understand is the size isn't super critical, providing it's really close. But what you want it to do is when you put the file into the gullet like that, it should be about at least twice the height of the tooth. 3 times is even okay. So you can kind of lay it in there and make sure that you're similar in the contour there. We'll get into more of that here in a little bit. The other thing that we're going to want is an ability to what we call jointing the saw, which is basically making all the teeth the same height. And you can do that with a simple file. This is it was a 8-inch or 10-inch mill bastard file that I cut just in a small piece to fit in a jointer frame that I used for crosscut saw filing, but the process is similar. Even if you don't have a jointer, it doesn't make any difference. You can just use this, as we'll see here, by itself to joint your files or your saw teeth. This is where you're going to start. And then the other tool, which I think is a necessity, is some sort of a setting tool. And I have yet to use any of these setting tools, and I have quite a variety of them. We'll cover these. I've got, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 of them, all different sizes and configurations and shapes. This is the one that I kind of like. We'll cover that when we come to the setting portion of it. And that's it. I guess where we're going to start today, I think, is where the foundation of the whole thing is a way to hold the saw. We need to be able to hold the saw securely so it doesn't shatter or move. I also forgot to mention something I'll be using too is steel blue layout fluid. This is something we used to use in the machine shop. I think you called it Prussian blue. I don't know why, if I have that in my mind. It's got a brush on it. This is a layout fluid, and you use this to paint on metal so you can see, so you can scratch marks in it. This is not necessary, but with my eyes as bad as they are, this will be a big help. So there's lots of ways to hold your saw. First off, I guess we probably ought to talk about how come you can't just use your vise. And the reason why you can't use your vise on let's say a back saw like this, as you can see the back of the back saw there is wider. If you try to clamp it, you're going to have a lot of movement in here because it's going to clamp on the wider part there, and that's not going to work out at all. There's a whole bunch of commercially available. Most of these are going to be antiques. I don't know if they make these anymore. I've never seen one for sale that was being built lately. This one's really cool. I'll show you how this works and why I like it. This is such a delightfully elegant tool. So it's made to clamp on a 2x4, and so I just got a piece of 2x4 that I chalk up there in my woodworking vise, but the way that it the way that it moves around and pivots on this ball and socket is really a great design. And what I have found, and that's the reason why when I file crosscut saws, that's why the bench rotates. It rotates and it lifts up and down, moves all around. So you need to be able to work at a very comfortable position because you need to be very consistent with your filing. And this is a cool little design, that ball and socket, how that fits in there like this. It's got a carriage bolt. Oh, I'm not having much luck here. There we go. That fits in there like this, and it's just got a simple handle. Love it. And that way you can orient this however you want to, whatever is comfortable for you, so you can get the proper light refraction off the teeth and then tighten that up. The top section just couldn't be any simpler here. You can see you just open up the wing nut and you can put your saw in there and tighten that up, and you've got a really great simple clamp for filing. It's not very big, it's only about 10 inches across here, but you can file a section if you have longer saws, and of course, continue to move them. But a great design. And I see these around all the time. I've got a couple of them around that several of you have sent me. This one here is my favorite. So you say, that's all well and good, Cody, because I don't have one of those things and I still need to file my saw. What am I supposed to do if I can't find one of these? Well, this is a method that I learned. Mrs. W got me Paul Sellers' book for Christmas last year, and this is a method that he shows. That's a way you can do it with any vise, just by using, this is a piece of 1x1, 3/4 by 3/4, just ripped off of anything you can find. This is a piece of fur, but what I'm going to do is we're going to mark the length of our saw, and just a little beyond, go a couple inches beyond. We're going to cut it to length. So if you have more than one saw, you'll probably want to make more than one of these, because they're just going to need longer ones and different size kerfs and all that. So we'll take our saw on there and we're going to measure the length of it. We're going to put a mark right there at the end of our saw blade. So this is just a piece of rough cut fur I cut with my chainsaw mill. I want to put some layout marks on there, so I'll just take a plane and smooth that down real quick. Now with the saw that this is going to be used for, we'll take it here and measure the end. And then take your combination square, send it to the center of your piece, and transfer a line right down the center. So now just outside of the length of the saw blade, we need to drill a little hole. Just a little hole. I'm going to drill one that's 1/8 of an inch. And what this is going to do is that this is going to prevent, where these chucks go? This is going to prevent this from splitting. It's the first time I've used this little drill. It's a dandy, isn't it? All right, that's just outside of our line there, right in the center. Just going to drill a small hole. It's nice that the handles, you can store those bits in them, so you always have them. So now ideally we would rip the full length of this all the way to the hole that we drilled with the saw that we're going to sharpen, but since that saw is so dull, I'm going to use my little Veritas because it's very similar. So the back saw is not going to be able to get in there because of the back and cut that last little bit, so I'll just finish it off and I'll cut to the hole with whatever saw you have. A coping saw I'm going to use here. And again, the reason for that hole is to keep the wood from splitting. If you didn't put the hole in there, it would split all the way through. My grandfather was in the Air Corps in World War II, and he said that that's what they did on the aluminum he was with the B-24 bombers. When they would get a crack started, if a crack would start in the aluminum, they would simply go to in front of it and drill a hole, and that would stop it. So it's kind of an old-fashioned way to solve that problem. Now we should be able to take the saw, slide it right there into the kerf, and go the full length of the saw. Now, to go full length of this, we'd have to take the handle off, and I don't think you'd need to. I think we can get up there pretty close, like that. And we want that sticking up only just a tiny little bit. We want enough room to work with our file and have room for our hands, but we want to clamp it up pretty tight so we don't get chatter. The higher the metal sticks up when we file, we'll get chatter and a vibration, and it makes it difficult to file. Now this will work with any vise. You don't have to have a carpenter's vise. Anything you have. Now as you put that in there, you can squeeze it and it's going to hold it securely. Now we have a nice position we can file from. Downside to this is you're probably going to want to do it sitting down because you need to get up really close to look, because this is very detailed work and you're too far away from it here and you have to bend over. The best thing would be to sit down on a bar stool, but a good way to do it, if you don't have any special equipment, that I don't have any question would work just fine. We haven't done a Manly Manners for a long time. Let's do a Manly Manners. Manly Manners, if you're joining us new or a new subscriber, is a small book that I have here that was written in 1913. And it's called Don'ts for Husbands. And I like it because, I think that we don't often need to be told what to do. I think more often we need to be reminded what to do. And it's a reminder not only to myself, but I think to many of us, for just little things that we take for granted, especially those of us that have been married for a few years. It's easy to take our loved ones for granted. And sometimes you realize that when they go away for a while. But I like this one here. So Manly Manners says, don't think that because you can't afford to buy an expensive present, it is best to take no notice at all. The smallest gift will be appreciated if prompted by love. When I read that, I was trying to apply that to my life, and there's many things that I've bought for Mrs. W over the years that were expensive items, maybe considered small luxury items, but I don't see them around very often. Maybe they've been discarded or they've ran their course, but they're just no longer really in her life so much. But the things that I see that are in her life that they give her years and years ago, were she keeps the small notes that I have left. Maybe you leave a note in the refrigerator, just something expressing how much you appreciate all of the work that our loved ones they do for us, and maybe leave something in her car or under the pillow, or where she might find it when you're not there. And I see that she has those, she keeps all of those and has them posted up in her office. And I thought that was really good advice. I think we have been so bombarded by propaganda from advertisers for our entire life that we think that the only gift that has value is something of great cost. Expensive watch, expensive pearls, expensive clothing, that is how you express love, is by the amount of money that you spend on it. And that's just not true. Anyone who's been married for any time knows that that's just not true at all. Those things are pretty much meaningless. I know for Mrs. W, the most precious thing is those little notes. So that's Manly Manners for today. We'll see you guys on the next video.